Hello fellow viewers, this is Marcelo from ACFM Gaming, and today I bring you some content about Field of Arms, the upcoming indie game that we have been working on. For this purpose I will be using a collection of paintings by a renowned 18th century author Dominic. Now Dominic painted this beautiful description, or depiction rather, of the capture of Havana in 1762 by British forces. This battle serves as a prime example of how sieges and especially amphibious operations were conducted in the Caribbean during that time. Now this collection of paintings can be found already digitalized at the Royal Museum's Greenwich, so you can go to the website. I will put the link in the description below and you can check it out yourself. Zoom in as much as you want, check out the paintings and look at the details. The Taking of Havana, 1762 by Dominic. Throughout the 18th century, the Kingdom of Spain has been trying to pursue a policy of neutrality when it comes to wars. Now, some of you may know Spain was basically fighting every single war in Europe at the time and also in the previous centuries, and these have been bleeding their arcs dry. Now, they also pursued a monopolistic trade scheme of landholding and extraction of precious metals and precious resources from their colonies. These conflicted directly with the British approach, which was more geared towards open trade. And sometimes what we see happening in the 18th century is that we have Great Britain trying to press Spain through any means necessary to open trade or to open their ports to them. This happened in several occasions, and sometimes many of the British expeditions, many of the sieges and captures of Spanish cities ended up in a treaty that benefited British trade in one way or another. And Great Britain was basically an expert in waging this kind of war. As you can see here, I have chosen this painting as, let's say, the opening painting that I'm going to talk about, because it shows, let's say, one of the capacities that the British forces had at the time. Traditionally, the British sea power was, let's say, uncontested when it comes to force deployment. They had the capacity of landing a force anywhere in the Caribbean and also defend, escort that force. Now, what I like about this painting, it shows, let's say, the opening scene of this siege, and what you would do, or what any British commander would do at the time. It's a naval blockade, because these Spanish fortified cities, they did have a hinterland, some, let's say, fields around them, but any kind of, let's say, meaningful reinforcements or relief columns that they could receive were bound by sea. Now, this is linked in part to what I mentioned before about Spain having a monopolistic control over the colonies and only allowing them to trade directly with Spain. The same, let's say, approach was taken to a great extent to, let's say, its military logistics. So there were only a few places in which Spain would manufacture guns. For example, we have the armories at Seville. Some guns were cast in Peru, let's say in the bigger buys royalties that Spain had in the continent at the time. But traditionally, those reinforcements, that kind of equipment, would come from Europe. So to maintain some degree of self-sufficiency and self-defense, these Spanish fortified towns like Havana, Cartagena, Veracruz, and so on, they would have their own fixed battalions that were made up of the local personnel. These were reinforced with veteran battalions from Europe that would have to be, let's say, acclimated first to the tropical environments and weathers and diseases especially. So for that reason, to prevent such reinforcement, the British Navy would initially block the ports. And what I like about this painting is that it's not just telling that maneuver. the blockade of the town, of the mouth of Havana's Bay. What it also shows is a sense of something ominous approaching. You have these men of war, these two squadrons of men of war, trying to, get close into the city's fortifications and start the bombardment, and preventing any, let's say, sortie on the part of the Spanish Navy that was at the time moored inside of Havana's Bay. We get some details of the city itself, the major fortification of El Morro. Right here you can see the lighthouse over there, and the reinforcement or the crossfire fort here at La Punta. It also shows the direction of the wind, which is something that I really like. It has some, you could say, some relaxing qualities to it, even though it's basically a painting about war. And you see how the wind is making these the waves foam. You see that the man of war has this ship of the line here has the gun ports open, ready to start firing. You see how the sails swell, and the flags follow the direction of the wind, and the pennants also. And we have red and blue squadrons here. But you may ask, how is this related to our game? Well, what I wanna do here in this video is show, like I said, some tactics, some maneuvers that you would see typically in battles and sieges fought in the 18th century, and relate them to our game, in which how players are going to be able to, let's say, reenact in a way such tactics. For example, we have, let's say, it's not a major component right now, but we do have a naval component, a naval bombardment component, in which players are going to be able to, let's say, duel each other, one enemy team from a ship and the other one from the fort.